Welcome back to another week of WCNC Plus on the pitch. I'm Danielle Stein. Charlotte FC getting ready for match week 5 of this MLS season. So far on the season, they are 1-1-2, most recently coming off of a draw against Inter Miami. They are sticking at home this week when they welcome New York Red Bulls into town. I caught up with MLS match analyst for Apple TV, Ross Smith, earlier this week, and he explained a little bit of the ins and outs of what this match could look like. And we also go back and talk about that Inter Miami match, as well as some specific players like Wilfried Zaha. Take a listen. Another week of WCNC Plus on the pitch. This week, Charlotte FC getting ready for another home match. This is a nice stretch for them at home. They have 5 straight at Bank of America Stadium. Pretty lucky for them. They get the spoils of their home crowd for 5 weeks, plus, of course, a break in the middle as well. Ross Smith is joining me. You're going to be on the call this week. You just said Charlotte's one of your favorite trips to make. I know in their short history, they've made a bit of an impact so far on the league. What have just kind of been your thoughts on how Charlotte has evolved in their 5 seasons so far?
I'll put that on the record, Danielle. That's coming into Charlotte is one of our favorite markets to come into for so many reasons. And I think the biggest one is because of the attention and the pure enjoyment that people have it in their club. They're following the ins and outs. They turn out on match day, and it also helps that there's a good product on the pitch as well. And I think what's been noticeable since Charlotte's come into the league is that they're not just here to go, the phrase make up the numbers. They're here to do well, to put a good product on the pitch and be successful as well. And you can see that with the big names that have come in. So it ticks all the boxes in every which way, and a lot of media outlet coverage as well, which is great. So for us coming in, it feels like a big occasion.
Yeah, it's always a joy. Charlotte has had a recent success in the last couple years. They want to get over that first round of the playoff hump still, and they are working towards that. Just coming off of their second draw of the season, it was a very anticipated one, of course, with Inter Miami, as of course it's a spectacle whenever they want to. And I want to dive into that game too, but the big picture also around this game I want to talk to you about. We got an email. This is just one example of a viewer who was livid that Messi did not play on Saturday. And this happens all across the league. This is not abnormal. I know there's the situation with Vancouver fans who are paying, lots of money to get these tickets, and then some players on other teams don't show up. That's obviously not the home team's fault. It feels like sometimes they get blamed for it. What do you make of this whole situation that we're kind of dealing with all that?
It's so tricky. You can understand it, right? With Messi and how much tickets do cost to be able to go see one of the greatest players perhaps we've ever seen, this world has ever seen. I think it just gets into tricky territory, because all of a sudden, if managers are having to be completely transparent about their team and who's in, who's not, a lot of secrets go out the door. A lot of what managers hold tight to them is their preparation for the game. And so for a lot of people to find out 2 hours before the match that Messi's not playing, I get it, but it's difficult to understand what the answer is. And you already referenced that with Vancouver. I mean, Chicago was another market where they actually, what was it? They returned the price of the ticket to fans, or they offered them 3 games the following season. Anyways, what they did was try to make it up in another way, because it's impossible. It's impossible. I've chatted to plenty of people, who are so close to it as well. And what's the answer? You can't be transparent and let everybody know a day before, because that just shows your cards to the opposition, what's happening, and that changes things completely. Tactic wise for a team, if Messi's in, if he's not, Dean Smith can then prepare a couple days on the training ground otherwise. So it's difficult. Clubs trying to make it up to fans. I think it's not necessary, but it goes a long way.
I agree. Of course, it's a spectacle, like you said, as I'm sure you've seen him play a number of times. I've seen him play a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's special for everyone, and the price of admission is typically worth it. So I get that, but also the Charlotte fans do show up for their club themselves. And it was probably a fair result getting a scoreless draw against that team, even though it was a pretty heavily rotated Miami squad.
Yeah.
Charlotte had their moments in it. They seem to be struggling still with finishing in the final third. But Kalina continues to show that he's here for good and goal, and he's been having some incredible saves so far this season.
Mhm.
Looking back to that match, just what was your assessment on how Charlotte did against that rotated Miami squad?
Yeah, they'll rue their missed chances. I think Leal Abada, I'm interested to see him
Yeah.
this weekend. It's I feel like been the story of Abada since coming to Charlotte, that he almost flatters to deceive. You expect him to go and have a breakout game and then doesn't quite finish off the number of chances that he's given. I think that's going to be the story for Charlotte. Who's going to catch fire? Pep Biel already has scored a few, and he looks back to his healthy ways of last year. Remember at the start of the season last year, Danielle, and I know you follow the team closely. I mean, we're talking about Pep Biel as being MVP of the league until
100%.
he went and he got injured. So if Pep Biel can continue that form, but then somebody else to get hot. Toklamati, put in score some good goals after Ajiman was transferred overseas. But I just think he needs to be more involved as well. He only seems to, I say only seem to show up and when he scores goals. I mean, it's the toughest thing to do in the game, some would argue. But I just feel as though he needs to add more throughout the run of play. I think Zaha, he really needs to get going more consistently and then Abada, as already mentioned. So that's what stood out for me from the Miami game. I thought this is one to really go. You're at home, you're back home to really get the crowd going. And I just felt all those players, those four players I mentioned, didn't quite get up to the level that they should be. But as you mentioned at the back, Kalina continues to impress. He had a rocky start to the season last year. Drake Callender coming in. I thought that was interesting. That almost seemed to get Kalina going
Yeah.
again. And Drake Callender now obviously at Minnesota. And then along the back line with Morrison, the last two games he's been really solid. Take out the own goal he scored against Austin, but it's going to be tough to replace Malanda. But what we've seen from Morrison so far, I think, shows a lot of promise. And I end on that because I think that's where Dean Smith actually starts, and it's from the backbone of the team and building from there. And so Dean Smith does a great job. It showed LA Galaxy of making sure that you stop the opposition, and then he goes from there. So I think he knows that it's only going to get better going forward throughout the season, but you have to make sure that your backbone is right, your structure's right, and then you go from there.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick pause. There's a lot of players that you mentioned that I want to dive a little bit further into. We will get back to that in just a moment. Ross, you were mentioning how the back line is the backbone for how everything builds for Charlotte FC. At Adilson Malanda, that's a big hole, and they knew that when he'd be leaving, that was going to be a big absence. They did sign Henry Kessler. He has yet to make his debut with the club. Dean did say that he is hoping or maybe expecting that Kessler will be starting to become available after the international break that's coming up just next week. So they could be getting some more depth at center back. But for right now, Morrison Agimon, another Agimon on the Charlotte
Yeah.
FC squad, which is super funny. Has been showing a lot of promise. You mentioned that he had that own goal earlier just 2 weeks ago, and that was a huge learning kind of moment for him and for guys like Ashley Westwood to tell him just keep going, keep your head down. There was a lot of really good talk from the other players to say, once a mistake happens, you can't let that just take you down. You have to just look past it and keep moving forward. How does a guy like that who's come up through the MLS Next Pro system, playing with Crown Legacy, just kind of as a greater picture, just show where this league can grow, having some young talent like him?
Yeah, I think the big question mark that people are trying to answer in terms of development is what pathway do you travel down? Because in the States, you have so many different directions to which you can go, and more it's becoming clear that being able to go into a USL team, a MLS Next Pro team, is paying dividends. It's allowing players to get games under their belt, to go and make mistakes, and then be able to come up. And the jump isn't as big as, say, I went through the college system, and the college system to the pro system, I felt was quite the leap. And every pathway I talk about has its place, but what it has in for Crown Legacy, for the secondary level, sort of call it, is you have a chance then to get reps in as well. And at the college level, you're getting reps in such a short period of time. So, anyways, what you're seeing now is younger players are more refined when they're coming out. And I think you're seeing that with Morrison. Yeah, there's going to be mental lapses, there's going to be mistakes. There was with Malanda. I remember watching him, and I remember Taylor Twellman on the call, and Taylor was watching him closely when he first came into the league, and Taylor was saying, this is going to be some player. And for the first 5, 6 games, I thought he makes so many mistakes. He's all over the place. Part of it was the system at the time that Charlotte were playing and a lot of man marking. So Malanda was on an island at times. But I mean, man, what a player he developed into. And the fact that Morrison has a center back as a manager, Dean Smith, I mean, he is going to learn everything that he needs to know from a guy who has been there, done that. And so Morrison, where you see him now to where he's going to get to at the end of the season, again, the learning curve that we saw and the trajectory from Malanda. I mean, Morrison and the attractiveness of other players coming in, young defenders with a manager like Dean Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be all for it.
And first of all, not doesn't hurt that he's a large human too. He's got a lot of size on him,
Yeah.
Morrison. But also to work alongside someone like Tim Ream, someone who's a veteran at the position, someone who can be almost like a mentor. That's definitely not a bad partnership on that back line. I want to move a little further up though. I want to talk about Zaha for a bit because that has been unfortunately the conversation around town right now. It's 4 matches in, 4 yellow cards, one more, and he's going to be suspended for yellow card accumulation. The frustration levels are continuing. Yes, he's getting fouled. Yes, last season he was the most fouled player in a single season in MLS, and it's not slowing down. He talked earlier this past week actually about how he was frustrated because he had calls and conversations and meetings with officials to talk about what can be done, and he feels at least that things haven't really changed for him.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is at right now with Wilfred Zaha and Charlotte? I mean, he's obviously an impactful player. He's 2 assists so far in the season, but the yellow cards and the attitude is sometimes more of a red flag.
Yeah, I'm not going to say a whole lot different than what other people have said in terms of I feel that like at times with Zaha, it's here we go again, and his body language almost suggests sometimes that you're able to shake him off his game. You're able to get underneath his skin and get him irritated, and once that starts to happen, then he goes missing for a period of the game until he gets switched back on. That you look at the style of play with Zaha. Unfortunately, he's so good on the ball and comfortable on the ball that he's willing to hold on to it for a large amount of time, which invites defenders into him, and then the body contact is happening more and more. So, his style of play and the attention he gets with that, and then also because of the name on the back of his shirt, I think that's also played into players' minds now, thinking, "Oh, I can get a piece of him."
Right.
And so, I'm sure others close to him have tried to get in his ear and to say, "Come on, let it water off the back. Can you just keep going with it?" And again, he is fouled. There are times where you think, okay, he's got a fair shout. There are other times where you think, just let it go. It doesn't need to be. So it's difficult. It's a difficult one. It's a distraction. I really do think so. How you get around it, Dean Smith, even the Austin game, I was going back to watch again, Danielle. And I mean, Zaha was already on a booking, and I thought he was going to go in the first half, and Dean Smith had to
Right.
come and chat to him. And the look in Zaha's eyes, I mean, his head was gone. And I thought he's going to get sent off. And so it's difficult. It's so difficult. I can't imagine what they're thinking of and strategies to try and calm him, because he's got the legs in him. He's got the ability. But it's unfortunate that his blow-ups are happening more than moments of magic to what we're seeing, to what we should
Absolutely.
be seeing.
Right. And something he said is, being a DP in this league, being a name, being someone who has Zaha on the back of their jersey, he wants more of that protection, maybe just for the name credibility and just for who he is. And yes, he is a very impactful player. We've seen, like you said, some of those moments of magic, but I'm also thinking about someone like Ashley Westwood, who is the captain of this team, and he's also starting to accumulate yellow cards. Sometimes he's coming to the defense of Zaha, and then he's getting himself into trouble too. So it begins to kind of snowball, I feel like, a little bit within the team too. And I do wonder come June when his loan will be up, what that is going to be looking like. We heard from Zoran, the general manager here in Charlotte, about him saying we haven't really continued those conversations yet because we want to see him score more goals and get more assists.
Mhm.
Do you think that should be enough fire under Zaha's belt for someone who says that he wants to stay here?
I mean, at some point he has to produce. So I think in the quiet moments, Zaha has to realize, and a guy who's look, he's played in the league that every soccer player, every footballer wants to play at in the Premier League, and so the guy knows what it means when it's time to show up. And so I think, and I read those comments with Zoran, and I think that's really interesting. And up to the World Cup, it's like a quick sprint season in a way for players before the transfer window and what have you. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that with Zaha, because at the end of the day, if he doesn't have the goals or assists, then I do think it's time to move on. And the Zaha project, it's time to close that door and see what young, exciting talent you could perhaps bring in to be a game changer. Because Dean Smith isn't. He's here to win trophies. So is this club is built to do so, and the players around it, like a Westwood who's aging, and the talent that you have with a Pep PL now and a Toklamani potentially. You need something exciting. You need somebody producing in there. And so if it's not happening, I think you got to cut it loose.
I spoke with Taylor Twellman a couple weeks ago, and he was here in Charlotte. We sat down, and he said Charlotte has the makings to potentially have one of the biggest summer windows out of anyone in MLS, just knowing that they could have one or maybe potentially two
Yeah.
DP spots open come that time. We're going to take a quick pause right now, and then we're going to look ahead to this weekend's match because we haven't dived into that at all yet. So let's get to that in a sec. Charlotte FC has 5 straight home matches. That is a luxury in this league. Charlotte's a team that does very well at home. They struggle historically on the road. So far, they do have 1 loss and 1 draw on the road. At home, they have 1 win and 1 draw. Another opportunity this weekend, Red Bull coming to town. You'll be on the call. I want to hear a little bit about what your impressions are of what this game could look like.
It'll be interesting, and it's a bit uncertain given that the Red Bulls, they call them this year, Danielle, the baby Bulls, because Michael Bradley, who is formerly a player with Toronto FC and had great success there. Obviously, his dad, Bob Bradley, was a longtime manager in this league, Chicago Fire, LAFC, Toronto FC, where he finished off. So his son, Michael Bradley, is managing them, and he's obviously coming with the philosophy that he wants to give young players a chance. And so where I say it's a bit unpredictable, the first 2 games of the season, the Red Bulls were really good and surprising everybody through their young bucks, through their young talent. And the last 2 games, I should say 2 games ago against Montreal, there was a surprise and they weren't on it. And then last game, they didn't look great, and then they finished off strong, scored a 90th minute equalizer, and that can change things. And so what you get with young talent, giving them opportunity, is the unpredictability of everything. So I think what you will see is a committed effort from the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls have been labeled over the years of being this energizer drink type style of football. It's not quite that. It's not guys just running everywhere and causing havoc. There is a lot more purpose to their play. But you're going to see young talent out on the pitch mixed in with a guy, Emil Forsberg, who has been with the Red Bulls for a couple of years now. He's a real talent, and he's getting up there in age. He's mid-30s, but he'll play in the center of the park, and he is their top player still. So for all the young talent that they have and that they're grooming, this guy has been established across in Europe, and for the last couple of years in MLS has been one of the better players.
Julian Hall, we have to talk about that. We're talking young
Yeah.
players. He's just 4 matches in, 17 years old, and he has 3 goals. This young talent is taking the league by storm already. He's had some crazy goals. They're calling him a wonder kid. What's been
Yeah.
your evaluation on his journey into MLS so far?
Yeah, he's grown up quite a bit, and we've been watching him for the last couple of years. There were times, Danielle, when he couldn't play because the games were too late at night, and so child labor laws in New York that he had to he wasn't able to be in the team for certain games, which is fascinating. But now he's coming of age. He's coming of talent. He's filling into his body size. He can take the bumps a little bit more. Look, he's quick over ground. He's clever with his movement, and he's growing in confidence. And I think given that he's got a manager now that's gonna let him go. He's going to give him a few games where he might not go and score goals, but he's going to keep his place rather than being in, being out, minutes here, minutes there. It's clear that Michael Bradley right now wants to give him a good chance. I've got to mention this name as well, Adrian Mehmeti in the midfield. This guy is 16 years old. Wow. What a player. He'll be coming up against Westwood, against Bronico if those two are starting. And he is so simple and it's magnificent. The guy it's side foot passing for 90 minutes. The ball only touches one part of his foot, but he is so good with it. 16 years old, center of the park, Mehmeti. Everyone's talking about Julian Hall, and rightfully so. But after you go past him, then it's Mehmeti. And this guy is some talent as well.
They're already proving that they are so far a force in the East, but Charlotte is still kind of middle of the pack. They've got, results on all facets so far. This is a really good opportunity then with 5 matches straight at home. What can that do for a club and their confidence early on in a season to have the backing of their home crowd for such a long stretch?
Yeah, I touched on it before saying this was like a sprint season, or at least to the halfway point. And I have chatted to a few managers where they feel that way because it's just about a 2-month break for the World Cup. And for you to go into that World Cup break feeling good results, where you're positioned in the table can make a huge difference. And I do think it's going to make a huge difference to some. I know we're not talking about this in Charlotte, but to some managers' jobs as well, whether they're going to be in or not, because general managers, owners, they're going to be looking at it thinking, right, if we're not doing the job, we've got 2 months now to bring in a new manager and really shape the team to the direction that we want to go. So I bring that up in terms of the urgency. And so to have these games at home, to be able to go and climb the table, knowing that around the corner you're going to get a break, that can do a lot. And that can build a lot of confidence in 2 months if you're looking at that table and you're sitting pretty.
Absolutely. Ross, enjoy your time in Charlotte this weekend. It's
Thank
going to
you.
be a hot weekend here, it sounds like. So
I was looking, I'm in Nashville. I'm based out of Nashville, and it's freezing here, surprisingly. So I'm looking forward to getting to some warmth.
It's 40s here right now too, so it's gonna pretty much double in temperature. I think it's gonna hit 80 on Saturday. So Charlotte's kind of a roller coaster in terms of temperature, but the fans are all gonna be coming out as they do. One of the best attended stadiums in all of MLS.
Yep.
Some players like the heat, some do not. Tim Ream told me he would play in the cold any day over the heat.
Well, he had all that time in Fulham and across in England where
Yep.
you barely get the heat, so he's used to it.
A St. Louis native for sure. Ross, thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Danielle, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Will I meet you this weekend? Will you be there this weekend?
I unfortunately am out of town. This is like the one match I'm missing all season.
Too bad.
But yeah, I know. But hopefully, if you're in town again, we would love to connect.
Yes,
fun though.
we've got Charlotte's next game after that, so we've got the next 2, but there's a week break in between. So
okay, awesome. And you're from Canada originally, right?
I am.
Cool,
I'm from
nice.
Toronto.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. Are you from? You're from Charlotte?
No, I'm from Boston.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, so that's very cool. So thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And
thank you so much. Yes.
We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, Danielle.
Bye.
See you again. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for Ross for the conversation here on WCNC Plus on the Pitch. You can listen to him on the call on Apple TV this weekend. Charlotte FC back in town for their 3rd match of a 5-match homestand. Next week, they're actually going to be off during an international break. Well, the U.S. men's national team will be in action for some March friendlies. But for now, that is it. We will see you guys next week.